Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Man. I'm Chris. I'm here with Brad. Just a couple marriage coaches, life coaches, good guys, just wanting to feed into your all's life, to hang out with you for a little bit, and to talk about relevant things mostly. But we're pretty irrelevant. But we're pretty irreverent people. So irreverent people talking about irrelevant. Anyway, we just want to feed into your lives. I know what I mean.
Exactly.
So I was sharing with Brad. So because I got a guilty. What do we call it? A guilty pleasure? I don't. That seems so weird. When I said,
like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, it kind of. I spend some time on Reddit every now and then. If you're not familiar with Reddit, it's an app that has different forums, different things, discussion topics people get onto. Mm-hmm. And so here's my guilty quote unquote pleasure or whatever it is, whatever we want to call this. I like to go to a category called convenient cop.
And, tell me about this. Okay.
I didn't tell you about this one yet. So convenient cop has people's dash cams where that'll capture somebody else doing something really stupid, like cutting them off or speeding real fast, or they'll run a red light. And there happens to be a cop just right there.
I love it.
It just busts them. Instant justice. That's exactly. Yeah. Jamie was saying, "Oh, Brad's gonna love that one. He's gonna."
I love it. I love it. Like cutting me off, I kind of let that go because I'm like, whatever. But when I see people run blatant red lights, I'm like, dude, where's the cop around? Because if I would have done it, the cop's right behind me. He's like, gotcha. Oh man.
So I like watching those. There's another one which I really don't feel as good about watching because I am definitely laughing at other people's pain, and that's probably not a great thing I should be doing. It's called What Could Go Wrong, and so it's people doing things like popping popcorn without the lid on, and so what could go wrong? lighting fireworks inside your apartment. What could go wrong? So
not wise choices. No. I do see those videos, and I know probably some are done on purpose, right? Just to get the content, right? But a lot of people don't. I don't think that they see that far ahead, right? Like maybe it was just the way I grew up or how I'm wired. I'm always like, no, better not do that because this and this could happen. Like that's probably gonna happen. Like, and I get, I don't understand. I'm gonna pop this popcorn. I'm not gonna put a lid on it. Whatever.
Yeah, get out a rooftop party. I'm gonna throw this microwave off the roof. Oh, it landed onto somebody's car. It demolished their hood of their car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's horrible.
So. But the convenient cop thing, I knew you would like the convenient cop because it's just, they're just boom right there. And it's just like, yes. There is justice in the world. all this to say is because it's not a promotion for these things. I stumbled across in the feed. It was called Ask Men. And it's a category of people asking men questions, which if you've been on any of these sites, you realize you're going to get a mixture of things. Ooh. And there's a lot of stupidity. That's probably a good way to put it. Yeah. There's a lot of stupidity that you'll come across. But in this particular one, I was actually kind of struck by the quality of a lot of the responses. So what the first one that caught me was, how can men stay committed to their wives for a lifetime? And I read that in a negative filter, right? Being marriage coaches, right? That like somebody going, how can you do that? That's like, that's the filter I read with it.
Yep. Yeah. You're not getting tone, right? You're just,
Sure. Yeah. And so, and that actually led me to the first thought. And I think we even brought that up because they're my best friend. She's my best friend. And this is how I would treat my best friend. I wouldn't treat my best friend differently. And hopefully you don't treat your best friend like I keep secrets from my best friend and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so that led me to check it out. And there's some really good questions and some really thoughtful and even painful answers.
Yeah. I was scrolling through a few of them. I mean, you did give me a little warning before, so I didn't have Reddit, and you know, then I felt like I don't have this app. Like Chris is laughing at me right now. And so I told, I was like, I downloaded it immediately. And then you have to like, you know, create like your algorithm basically. What do you like? And so anyway, I do all that. And then I immediately go to the Ask Men section, and my virgin eyes, Chris, I was like, what? No, Chris, what'd you do to me?
Oh, did you get like things like that? Oh, I didn't. Okay. You're messing with me. You're messing with me. I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I do to my friend? His wife's gonna kill me.
I can't watch. No. Some great questions. There was obviously some funny questions.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's like some good questions, and then people are commenting, and I think the guy's like, hey, I need a serious answer here. Like, can someone just give me a serious answer? Right.
Seriously.
But one thing I noticed too, and just kind of overall on this Ask Men, I know you have like a bunch that you look through and kind of saved so we could talk about it, but I thought it was interesting to see. This is the draw to community, right? For men.
Yeah.
Right. Not social media where you put pictures up and do this and that and whatever. Like that, some people do ask questions on social media, but not really. This is more of like an open forum, and it's just like for anyone to just throw a question in there. And it was interesting to me to see that, where guys are like, how do people date in their 30s? Like, how do people, you know, how do men do this? How do men do that? All these good questions that are focused, clearly Ask Men, right? Focused around men. But really it could be a simple question, but how deep it is as far as like, man, I don't know. Like, I'm a man. I don't know these things. Like, I don't know how to do this. And it's not like building something. It's something introspective. So I don't know. I just thought it was a great forum.
Well, yeah, I agree. And that's why I wanted for us to talk about this, because of some of the quality. And like you said, there's a draw to community, right? There's a need. We're connected. We're created for connections, right? We are created to be in relationship. We're not supposed to go this alone. We've talked about that. And that's why, like God says, don't stop meeting together in church as the body, because we need to build each other up. We need to uplift each other and be there for one another. And the detriment that these past few years have had on us as individuals, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, because we haven't been able to be in community. And not to mention, guys, we suffer from that to begin with. You know, we're not good at that. Yeah, it's interesting to see where people go to try to regain this, to try to get this back.
And I thought, like, I was looking through them and just laughing, and then really kind of like, wow, this is super interesting. This is all the things we were just talking about. So the first thing popped in my head, I was like, man, it'd be cool if there was like a Christian focused one, right? And I was like, that would be really cool. And I kind of talked myself out of it a little bit, in the sense of like, as a Christian man, I want to go to that blog and look and see what everyone's dealing with, right? I mean, there are specific like Christian men things that people have questions on, of course, but to have someone like, I think one of them was like, what's wrong with nice guys, or something like that. Or there was another one that the dating one really hit me, because it was like, how do you find a nice woman, or what, you know, essentially something like that. And it's like, well, as cliche as it sounds, it's like, well, are you connected to your church? Like, are you connected in a small group? Are you going to clubs trying to find chicks? Because that's not, if you're looking for, you know, stable, long-term, like that intentionality behind dating, and you're going to clubs to party, and hopefully find a woman, you're not gonna, I think it would be very far few between that you would find like the stable, not the woman you'd want to marry. Right.
Yeah. Well,
so those things pop in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, because people are looking in the wrong places for the right things. Mm-hmm. And they're not, and I think it's because there's some desperation and because there's this loneliness and this need, because we all have a need to be loved, mm-hmm. all have a need to be accepted, right? We need it for belonging and we need purpose. Those are kind of 4 kind of basic core needs that we all need. Now we can get them all and through Jesus, and I don't want to just broad brush that going, oh, Jesus is just the answer. He is, but it's not as simple as that. Yeah. I was joking around about the idea of like, well, here you can go get a prescription for medicine to take, but if all you do is just get the prescription and you set it on a shelf, if you don't read the directions and you follow the directions and utilize the things that are in there, that the other people and the things that are supplied for that, well, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So, well, let's talk about some of these things, because one of them actually these topics, some of these questions, because there's like men in one word. And so of course there's some jokers that just come back and say, man. And, it's just, and that's, male. You gotta expect that. You're opening yourself up for that, because there's just people who like to think they're funny. But one question was, and this threw me, what was one question you wish people would ask you more? Right? What was one question you wish people would ask you more? I thought that was a very thoughtful question. And of course, the first response was, hey, can you give me $100? Or can I give you $100? People ask me. That is, so that, I expected that. What I didn't expect is somebody returned a response. Are you emotionally, physically, and psychologically healthy and safe?
That's what I'm talking about when I looked at that. Yeah. That's exactly.
Yeah, sure. Because as men, I don't think we have those places where it opens up the opportunity. Somebody responded to them, said, no is really the default answer here. And they replied back, that's the problem. We need to quit lying to ourselves and to others. It is a greater threat to ourselves to hide one's insecurity than to be open about them.
Yeah, agree. Agree. I'm like, it's so interesting, because what does it mean to be a man, right? And then immediately, if you just throw that out there, immediately it's the tough side of everything, right? Like protector, leader, all these things, they're true. They're 100% true. But I think like the whole man, right? What it's like to be a whole man is also being vulnerable and being able to be emotional and all those things that guy hit on, because, and I've said it, I'm pretty sure I've said it on here before when I've talked about insecurities, but there is not a man on this planet that doesn't have insecurities. And don't if you ask someone and they say no, they are bold-faced lying to you, because they are 100% insecure about something. Yeah. Whatever it is.
They're insecure about having insecurities.
Yes.
Well, one person a speaker had said that everybody's got insecurities. They just display it different ways. And some of them will pull back and get really small, and some will puff up and be really big.
Yep.
And that's the way that they deal with it.
Isn't this the basis for, the anti of this is the basis for toxic masculinity, right? Like there is toxic masculinity. I just think that that's thrown around just like flippantly thrown out there.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
For anything, kind of like the word hero, right? Like I feel like that's just flippantly. So, but like this, where it's an emotional, closed off man that feels like he can't be vulnerable, that he can't have insecurities, that he can't cry, right? That he can't do these things because he's a man. He has to be the tough guy swinging an axe, whatever it is, right? Like chopping wood. I don't know, right? And wearing some flannels, whatever.
And while holding his coffee and not spilling a drop in the other hand.
Exactly. 100%. And that coffee's black. There's nothing extra in that. As black as you can get. It's thick, like syrup, like
grounds.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's that basis, right? Because it's like, no, I'm a man. This is how I'm supposed to act. Right. And man, I'm going to tell you right now, we were talking about crying the other day when we were traveling. We were out with some friends at dinner and just emotions came up or something like that. And they were all like, oh no, I've cried doing this. I cried doing, and I looked, I was like, I cry all the time. It's ridiculous. I cried during Top Gun. Like I got teary eyed during Top Gun, the part 2. I don't know why. Maybe the nostalgia of being a little kid and seeing time, and then it comes out. I don't know what it was, but I'm like, why am I getting teary eyed? We just saw another movie. It's called Devotion. It's about this. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer. It is an amazing movie. It's about a pilot, not one of the first African-American or black pilots, but is a black pilot, and he does amazing things, right, in this war. And I got choked up during that. And, we get done and they were like, did anyone cry? I'm like, yeah, I did. Like, I was like, is anyone watching? All the time. But 10 years ago, 11 years ago, that would not have been the case at all. I would have felt something and then I would have immediately like swallowed and like pushed that down as far as it can go, because not so much that I was like, men don't cry, but more of like, why am I getting emotional to this? Like, what? Like, this is just a movie, or this is just sort of like, I shouldn't be, I know this is all fake or whatever it is, right? I shouldn't get this emotion. And now I'm like, I watch an episode of Chosen and I'm like, oh my gosh. I
know. That's what I was going to say. We couldn't get through season 1 without every show.
Dude, season 3, every episode I've seen so far, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
haven't seen season 3 yet. So I need to start season 3 because we like to let them kind of build up so we can.
Oh yeah. So you can
binge.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's so we watched The Chosen season 1, episode 1, got wrecked. Got wrecked. Yeah. Then we wanted our kids. So we were with one of our kids. Hey, you got to see this. So we watched it again. Still got wrecked. Then we went with another one of our kids. You haven't seen this? You got to see this. Wrecked it just as much. In fact, I started off before the scene hit. Right. I knew what was coming because we talked about that. We're emotional people, and to swallow that, it causes problems. It causes us to have issues instead of actually just dealing with them. Dealing with those feels and not quite. I've seen plenty of men cry when their team lost and didn't go to the finals, right, to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it is showing emotion. I get, I mean, I've never done that. But I mean, look, I'm looking at a movie and I'm like, oh my God, that one hit me, and so, I guess it's along the same lines for sure. Now, I will say, I do think that there is a balance, right? There's 100% of balance, a healthy balance where it's not, it's not pushing your emotions down and hiding them. But I have seen, especially now, there are so many men that every little thing is this super emotional. I mean, I'm sure you've talked to men that are like super emotional. Every little thing is just like a crushing event and potentially scarring. And it's like, dude, Starbucks didn't have the scone. Like, calm down, man. And I know, like, I'm playing that
like
a little
that lemon blueberry scone.
I know they're legit, but I'm playing that a little bit flippantly, but at the same time, like, it's almost too much, right? So I don't know. How do you balance that? What do you think?
Well, it's that same idea of, right? It's dealing with the feels, or the feels deal with you, right? So feel the feels, acknowledge the feels, but don't let them be the drivers, right? So we can feel the feelings. And if we need to cry about something, cry about something. If something is upsetting to us, but I guess there is perspective, right?
Yeah.
Our thoughts will feed into our emotions. Our emotions then will feed into our actions, and our actions reinforce the thoughts. And so we've got this cycle going on. Right? And so a person had said, Julie Gorman, we were there. We were there together when she said it. Said, if you don't like the way you feel, change the way you think.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so like that simple sentence is so, it's huge.
It's profound. It's easier. Simple, not easy. But
yeah.
So then that way, so look, we don't need to blow things. We don't catastrophize things. We don't need to take it and make it a mountain out of a molehill. But also, it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to have your mind set on something and then like, dang, I was really looking forward to that. And then and to feel the disappointment instead of letting it go to anger, like we talked about in episode, what was that, like 12, 10?
Yeah.
Talking about our emotions. Yeah. So there's absolutely ways that we can deal with that and keep perspective. There's certain personality types. Look, you can are very into their emotions and their feels, and that's fine. That's how God wired you, and it doesn't make you less of a man. Nope. But to be run over by them on either way, either run over them by them because you're just letting every emotion have its way with you, or run over them because you're stuffing every emotion, and then it's still having its way with you in different unexpected ways. It's still out of balance. You got to find some way to be able to better process that. And I think the more we're connected with other people, the more we can be, and I'm going to go ahead and say it because I'm a real man, and I can quote Mr. Rogers, and because Fred Rogers, one of his quotes is, if it's mentionable, it's manageable. I don't know if I said that in the other episode, but if it's mentionable, it's manageable. And this is before research said, hey, if you start talking about emotions, you take it from your reactive brain into your logical brain. And so if we can talk about it, but we need other people to talk with.
Yeah.
We need to have that community to be able and be honest in that community. And have
I think
people that we,
Well, that's where you're hitting it on the head, right? So a married man or even a single man, you can, but you don't necessarily want to always go to a female or your wife and, have some emotional conversation. I mean, I do all the time, but I can see where maybe you're dealing with something, and it's kind of like the accountability partner thing, right? Where my wife isn't necessarily my accountability partner on things I struggle with. It's another man that I can trust, a godly man that I can trust and talk to and get godly advice from. But it's not necessary. And I say necessarily because innately, my wife is my accountability partner, because I am accountable to her on so many levels, right?
Two became one.
So many levels. Yes, exactly. But like when I was going through all my stuff and we were reconciling and all these things and I was struggling, I can't go to her and be like, hey, I'm struggling today, because then that wrecks her. Like, what do you mean you're struggling? Now we both know it was nothing to do with her. It was, like we've learned so much through that. But at the same time, like when we coach people, we tell them like, hey, don't go to your wife and tell her like, let's say it's porn. Don't go to your wife and say, I'm really struggling with porn right now. Like I want to get on and look at that, because that will wreck your wife. It will demolish her, because then she's like, am I not doing am I not loving him enough? Am I not enough? All these things, which she's not enough because it's Jesus, right? But all these things will go through her head. Am I not pretty? What have I done? Where it's an addiction. And so it's really nothing to do inherently with her. It's more of the addiction side. And if you can go to a guy and say, hey man, like, dude, I'm struggling today. Well, you want to go out for coffee, or you want to get together, or let's pray right now, or whatever it may be. But there's that space where I can share and not feel like I'm going to just wreck the other person. Right.
Yeah.
And I went to an extreme, of course.
No, right. But the extremes are easier to see from that example. And I appreciate the sharing as well, because we need it. We need and that's what we're kind of talking about is the surprise with that. Yeah, some of these are funny, like we said, but like one is, when do women do a girly voice is an endearing or annoying? Okay, that's kind of funny. That's to see that feedback and just to get that polling.
Yeah.
But then there's other things like, how can one become mentally strong? Or what's improved your low self-esteem?
Oh, wow. I didn't even see those.
Yeah. men, and this goes along with what you're just saying, men, how do you fight temptation?
Yeah.
And here's one that I personally, I appreciated because again, you expect that there's going to be, it's a secular site, and it doesn't mean, and I kind of think maybe Christian men do. I'm on the fence with that. I don't want to necessarily say, hey, let's start on our community page, because we've got the community page on YouTube.
Yep.
And YouTube's becoming more and more of a social platform like that has those places where we can put more posts and more polls, which we have a couple out there. And so if you're on YouTube or want to jump onto YouTube, we're at Not Your Average Man. Go on there, go to the community tab. We got some things there. We have a handout there. We got more things that we'll put out there for this, because I'm getting inspired. But but going back to how has porn affected your life? Well, I went in there and I was reading some of those, and of course you had some of the stupid, like, oh, it's great, but you also have the people who are like, it wrecked me. And I'm struggling to ever see sex in a healthy way again. It's wrecked my ability to have relationships. I've lost relationships. I mean, I've had man problems because of that, because of pornography. I mean, all sorts of honesty that people are coming out and are talking counterculture, and they're being real, and they're saying what's really going on, instead of just this let's keep along the party line, so to speak, and not share that I'm having problems.
Yeah, I love it. It's everybody. Like, there's so many issues that Christian men deal with that secular men deal with, because the difference is a decision that you made on how you want to live your life and how you want to grow and live your life, right? Like, I accept Jesus, I follow Jesus, I'm a Christ follower. So my road's going to be different. Maybe these parallel roads are going to be different, but still, there's still the same common problems with all men, right? And so it's so interesting. It's almost like, hey, there's men's groups at churches, and I know there's dudes that walk in there that are looking for community that don't really know what to do. But it's safe to say that there's a lot of men that will never step into a church men's group because of the church. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, it's because of the church itself, right? So you can almost anonymously go through Reddit and say, oh, I don't agree with this. Like, this is a big problem. Like, everyone else is cool with it, but no, it's not. I don't agree with this at all. Like, this is how it should be, or and if you read it, you're like, man, you don't know how on the verge of opening your Bible you are. Like, if you're not doing it all the way, you don't know how on the verge you are of, like, man, if someone would just talk to this guy and be like, hey man, let's sit down and have coffee. I want to talk to you about this. Like, because you're questioning things now that are normalized secularly, and you're saying that it's not right. Like, you are understanding it is not right anymore. And what do I do? And it's like, man, there's a whole community for that. Like, there's a whole other chapter in your life of that walk, And so it's inspiring. It really is, to see this.
Oh yeah. Well, and I don't know if we've mentioned this, that the enemy, he can't create. He's not a creator. He's an imitator.
Yeah.
And so, what God had created to fill our needs, the enemy will imitate, twist just enough, and put it out there and say, oh, here's the answer. Here's how your needs can be fulfilled. Here's how, this is the fix for you. But you always end up coming up empty. You think, okay, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm the problem. So I'll keep going at it, but I'm just more and more empty until you just stop trying again. Versus what you're saying, you're so close to opening your Bible. One of the questions was, what do you want for 2023? One of the guys said, a friend.
Wow. Like, how deep is that?
Yeah. And you're going to, I don't know, maybe you'll find a friend through Reddit. But ideally, you'll find a friend in church community in which the church has made that difficult in a lot of ways, because the church kind of, in some ways, stopped being the church according to the Bible. I mean, right? Yeah. They became traditionalist. They became church versus being people focused and healing focused. But you know what? But I think that's what happens. There's this scramble, right? To see, okay, hey, how can I get help? How can I get this filled? And I think a lot of guys I read some of the answers were, I'm tired of trying. I'm shutting down. I'm not going that far anymore. And in the church, right, we've got guys who are suffering the same way, but because maybe they're not reaching out to other men. They're not reaching out to saying, hey, is there a men's group? Do we have something even online that, that we can get to? Are there mentors? Is there somebody who I can just sit down and have coffee with and build those relationships? And on the flip side, Christian men, right? Are you reaching out? Are you seeing people? Are you going to service and then just with family? And then that was a good service, and now let's go to lunch together and be happy family together. Or are you actually scanning the crowd sometimes and seeing, hey, I've noticed this person came alone and I don't think they've got anybody else, or this couple has been coming alone and they don't have anybody else. Let's ask them if they want to come to lunch.
Yeah. I mean, you're stepping on my toes a little bit for sure here, 100%, because we laugh about it in my family, and I know we've laughed about it when we were all together, but I am an introvert. It's that extroverted introvert kind of, side where I do have my limits. I can go speak in front of whoever and however many people. It doesn't faze me, but I am, like, I think at heart an introvert. And so there are times where I'm at church and church service is over and I'm like 180 and I'm trying to get out. And it's not out of love. It's just out of like, I don't want to, like, no. But
they're closing it around me.
Oh yeah. Like, can I just get out of here? My wife's the exact opposite. She's like, I'm going to talk to everybody before we leave. But there's times where I felt, and I would tell people, like Christian men, speaking specifically to you, that go to church and do exactly what I do. Maybe you do it all the time. I don't do it all the time. It's just sometimes I have a quota, a limit, and I got to like bounce. But if you feel that nudging, right? That like, man, I should probably go talk to that guy. Maybe he's not alone. Maybe he's there with his wife, but you've never seen him before, whatever it is. But maybe you're like, I should go talk to that guy. And then you stuff it down and walk away. Like, man, that's God telling you, hey, go say hi to that guy. And if you what am I trying to say? If you blow it off or overanalyze it, right? Like, well, no, I don't do that. I'm not, like, I can't speak well. I don't meet new people, all these things, but you still feel that urge. God calls you to do things that you're not equipped to do.
Yeah. And all the time.
I will say that probably 100% of the time, if God's calling you to do something, you're going to feel not equipped, but that's the point, right? Because if God calls you to do something and you're fully equipped for it, then it's like, oh, well, thanks God. Like, cool, but I got this now. Like, I got it now. I could do it. Like, okay, I have confirmation. Like you said, all right, I'm going to go do it. Like, cool. But even in like my life, right? In Lisa and I, we started the podcast, we started social media, we started this thing. And I'm telling you, like, you talk about not feeling equipped. I didn't feel equipped at all. I know we're about to start a new season. And I'm like, what do we talk about? Right? Like, and now I'm like, I don't feel like we have anything else to say. Of course we have a ton of things to say. Like, of course.
We're done.
Yeah.
I've poured out all of my knowledge.
Yeah. This is all my married knowledge. We're out, but of course there's more out there. And it's like, but that's where God comes into play, right? That's where it's like, okay, Brad, Lisa, like we've gone this far. I'm still telling you need to do this. I still, you still feel it. Just sit down and start doing it, because you need me though. Right? Like everything we do, like we're praying about it. We're doing all these things. So even if you think like, wow, he's got a fancy mic and he's got this arm set up, and we're building a room right now. We're not building a room. We're redoing a room right now for like the full bit. And the whole time, if you think I'm like, oh man, that dude's super professional, he's got it all together, he's doing everything right. Like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am like, God, what am I doing? Like, you've called me to do this. What am I doing? So if you're that introverted dude and you're sitting in church and you're a strong Christian, you can be a strong Christian and be introverted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's totally fine. That's how you're made. That's how God made you. It's who you are. But if you're feeling that nudge, man, go over there. Go over there, because you don't know what that one, like, hey, good morning, my name's Brad. How you doing? You don't know what that little thing can do for that guy. You don't know what he's going through. You don't know what he went through before he got there. You know nothing about him. And if you're just literally introducing yourself as a friendly face and genuinely like, hey man, glad to see you. Like, I want to meet you, whatever. You have no idea the ripple effect that'll have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you don't know the lies that have been being talked to him as well, or the lies he's even might be telling himself in his head. Nobody says hi to me. Nobody wants me here. No one would even notice if I stopped coming, right? Yes. All these kind of things were just somebody acknowledging. I think that was one of the things that, what do people want? Or is just ask me how I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
like genuinely ask, right?
Yeah. All of the things, all of these wants and desires are supposed to be set up and to be fed into by the body, right? It's not a lot. We're not asking to become best friends with this person, and then you have to spend every waking hour with them. Just say hi. Just say, I'm glad to see you. Ask their name. Don't wait till the pastor prompts everybody to shake hands with the people around you.
That's when I shrink and I start sitting down. I'm like,
but you can do that on your own, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. You're probably sitting around the same people, because we all sit in the same spots. That's my seat, right? So then turn around and get to know the people around. Because here's the sad part: if you had season tickets at a sporting event, you probably you probably know all those people, and you probably know about their families. So why aren't you doing it with your brothers and sisters in Christ?
Man, that's so good. I've never heard it like that, but you're 100% right. Season ticket holders, like NFL game, they know that row. They know the row behind them. They know the row in front of them. If they miss it, they're like, where's so-and-so at? Like,
oh yeah, they get concerned. Yes. They check in on them.
Yes, that's huge. Oh, wow. I love it. I love it.
And and if someone gives you tickets, because I've done that before, where if someone's given me their tickets before for a game, or I've sat down and they're like, oh, so how do you know so-and-so?
Yeah.
And then they get to know me because I'm a friend of a friend. Well, everybody in that church, if they're a believer, right, they are a brother and sister.
Yep.
Not just a friend and a friend of a friend. Not just you're tied together because we're all part of one body and all part of one family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we need each other. We need to have an opportunity to have a forum to be able to be open, to be honest, because everything we talked about, it gets fed by the God's design and God's setup. So maybe I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get crazy. But look, if I'll throw something on the YouTube community, I'll put a poll out there. I mean, email at notyouraverageman.com. Right, guys, we're available to you. So, I mean, that's obviously we'll see your name, but I think on YouTube you've got handles and not necessarily your name. Yeah. And so if that's something a little more anonymous, that hit us up. I'll put a poll out there. I'll ask if this is something that people want to ask. Maybe we'll throw a couple of questions and see if you want, because we're not trying to force anything that you don't need. But obviously, people need this.
There's something, right? Yeah. So when you told me about all this and I started getting into the Ask the Man page, or Ask Men, something like that. Yeah. One I fell on today was what? And so I wanted to ask you this, and it could be funny. It could be serious. I have a couple, I I was thinking about this and I was like, no, that's one. Like, that's one too. So it's what hill are you willing to die on? Right.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
and I just thought it's like, okay, yeah. That always says, what's a hill you will die on? That's the actual question. And you go through it and there's funny ones. Like, I'll read this one. Modern fortune cookies are not fortune cookies. They're advice cookies. And that's hilarious because it is such, it's funny. Of course, we don't believe in fortune cookies, but it's just funny. You open it and it's like, this guy, like the cookie's telling me to invest, a percent into something. And I'm like, what is this? But there's like some serious ones. And so kind of what we were all talking about, right? With the emotions and all that. So this one, it says, men's issues are real issues. Nobody is denying women's issues by saying that. Both can be a thing simultaneously. And I was like, yeah, because if something pops up, it's always a women's issue, right? Other than you hear like cheating, the inherent like man things, right? Other than that, everything's a women's issue, right? And I thought that was so profound that guy said that, because that's a priority in his life, clearly, because he's like, this is a hill I'm going to die on. I will die on this hill. I will fight this issue all the time. And it gets into what we were just talking about, right? I mean, I just thought it was, everything we talked about is exactly what this guy's saying, right? We're not ignoring anybody else's issues, but men do have real issues and it's okay. And it's not saying that women are lower or women don't matter or anything like that. It's just okay. Right. And so
my broken arm doesn't take away from your broken leg.
Exactly. And it's not because I'm a man and you're a woman. It's just, these are issues we have. Right. Yeah. So I'll throw the question to you. So what hill would you die on? Funny, serious, both, doesn't matter.
Oh, well, I don't have anything funny to say, because it'll be almost the predictably silly, the particularly serious thing. God, my belief and faith in God, and never renouncing that. Some people say there will be a day in some possibly near future where we might be put into position having to renounce that, even to buy food and all that. So would I do that in order to feed my family? I'd like to think that no. This is a hill that I'm willing to die on, and then for my family. I put myself in front of the line of fire to protect them. Now, this might be funny. If you all know my wife at all, she is a scrappy woman, and so she would come out swinging. She would. I wouldn't be fighting alone.
I mean, she might have like I'm dating myself right now, but she might have like that diehard like gun taped to her back, right? Like, I'm giving up. No, I'm not. Right? Yeah. No, that's a really good one though. That was a really good one. Yeah. I thought you would have a funny one too, but
that's right. Well, what about you?
Okay, so I have so we'll go serious. Let's go serious. And I just thought about this, and it is it is my faith in Christ, right? Without a doubt. But in that, okay, so Genesis, right? So and I don't know where you land on that. So let's talk about the creation, right? And God created creation story 7 days, right? Or he rested on the seventh day, right? But creation story is 7 days. And so my daughter actually got me on this, right? I've always believed that it's 7 days, like 100% 7 days, right? Like, why would the Bible say day and it means something else, right? To me. And that's how my daughter believes too, right? So I'm like, okay, that's good. I believe that. And then I hear other Christians, right, in the community, they're like, no, the day actually can mean thousands of years, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I started being like, you know what? Okay, I don't care. You believe the thousands of years, whatever. I'm gonna believe it's actual 7 days. It doesn't matter. It's not a salvation issue, right? Absolutely. That's how I've always believed. Then my daughter's like, I'm having coffee with her on our Saturday morning coffees. My daughter's passionate about Genesis. And she's like, and I say that, and I was like, well, it's not really a salvation issue. And she's like, no, it can be. And I was like, what? And she's like, it can be. It can be. Not necessarily is, but it can be, because what else are you going to question what God can do? Right?
Ooh.
To me, it says 7 days. God is God, above space, above time, above everything. Like, he's the creator of all. If it says 7 days, then in 7 days he created what we have, period.
Mm.
That's what I believe. The people that believe the other side are not, I'm not saying they're not Christians, but they're looking at science, right? Like, oh, carbon dating, all these things. And I can't get into it like my daughter can. Like, she has studied this thing, right? But when she said that, it was so profound to me, because I'm like, wow, then what else are you going to question?
That's great.
That God can do, right? Like, you know, it's all so that's a serious hill. Here's another hill I'm going to die on too, along the same lines of questioning God. Right now, the epidemic, right, is males being born as biological males and becoming females, or vice versa, right? And if you guys haven't heard this, you can look it up. You have self-proclaimed Christians, right? Christ followers that attend church, that do these things, that are okay with this, right? That are even have family members that are doing this, right? And my question to them would be, and I've never had a question, I've never asked this question, but my question to them is, if you believe in God and you are a self-proclaimed Christian, then are you saying that God made a mistake when he made your daughter or when he made your son? So you're saying when your child was being woven in the womb and God knew him, because it says that in the Bible, you're saying that God mistakenly made that boy a boy because they should have been a girl. And that would be my question. So those are that's like the hills that I would die on, the serious ones,
right?
In the sense of I guess the overarching thing is you're questioning what God can do and who God is. And that really hits me, because it's okay to have questions of who God is. 100%.
Absolutely.
Questions
he's big enough. He can handle it.
Yes. You need those questions. Like my wife says, when we were going through all those things, she had those prayers of why? Don't do this to me, God. Why are you doing all these things, these raw prayers to God? And if you don't think God's not big enough to do that, he knows everything you do. He knows your thoughts. He knows everything. And so those two examples I gave, they really hit me when I started thinking about this question, because I was like, man, both of those are questioning God, what God can do, in the sense of there's no way, they're taking science and they're saying, there's no way. I believe God created everything, but there's no way he created it in 7 days. Why? Why is there no way?
Is he not God?
Is he not God, right? Or the other example I gave, right? You're saying you're a Christian, and non-believers, I can't pose that question to them, right? Because they're non-believers. So there's a whole nother facet of this. I understand that. But there are believers 100% that support this within their family. And it's so you're saying you believe everything God can do, but at the same time, you're saying God made this mistake, and it's he doesn't make mistakes. I know there's evil in the world and there's bad things that happen all the time, but that's because we live in a fallen world,
Sure.
And so I don't know, those are my serious ones. And I know I just went crazy, maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit controversial, maybe there'll probably be some scientific theologian that hears this and he's like, no, day in Greek at the time that was written actually meant 5,000 years. So technically 7 times 5, it took this long. And it's okay, calm down.
And then let's go to the Hebrew.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure we might get some back on that, but
no, we welcome. We welcome. Hit us up in the community.
Come on.
Give a comment below. right? In the review, they're talking about this stuff. On YouTube, because it made me think about this. I'm going to throw up pose this question of where do you draw the line in what God can do?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I love that.
I want to hear back. I want to hear people. If you're listening to this, where do you draw the line on what God can do? I want you to really think about it. Email us, comment, hit us up in the communities in doing that. Because look, we all have questions, and we know the pat answer is Jesus, right? Is God, because that's the question. Where do you draw the line of what God can do? Is God, is he capable? Is he the creator of all? Or is he not capable of doing things? And that really kind of is the crux of the question. Because let me wrap it up with this. Because I think the average man, right? They're not sure where to look for help. So they'll scramble for different places for help, and they'll fall into places that aren't necessarily helpful, that are saying this is where you can get the answer, but won't get the right answers. Or they'll get answers that not only take them to the wrong place, but leave them empty and leave them frustrated. And then they'll even get desperate, do desperate things, or shut down and turn inward, right? The above average man, they seek godly counsel, right? That's the wise kings did this. They actually seek godly counsel. So they look to get into community with the church body, or stay in community with fellow believers, right? Bible believing believers. They turn to the Word, to the Bible for answers. Right? We might not have the specific answers. They didn't have cell phones back then or smartphones, but the principles are still there. They reach out to other brothers in Christ, like you're saying, right? Because iron sharpens iron. We need other men to be part of that. Because when one part of the body suffers, the whole body suffers, right? And especially these days, the body's suffering. Right, the body's suffering. So we need to reach out, and we also need to look out for our other brothers and go be more than your average man.